Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig, and
I'm Michelle. Welcome.
welcome back. Last time we were touching on some of the therapy stuff, but you brought up a point about some harassment and some legal stuff that was going on, and the lawyer starting the process. And can you tell us more about that? Can you go more into detail? What details you can do?
So at this point in time, right? So this backs up to the trauma hospital a little bit where the police were saying this one was driving or that one was driving, and care was not exactly what we expected.
Unbiased.
And, we have the highway patrol who's harassing us at the hospital saying, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. And we're like, you know what? Stop it. So at the trauma hospital, sorry. So at the trauma hospital, they're trying to talk to us. We're refusing to talk to them. We called Tom's cousin, who's an attorney, and said, we think we need help. Right? So she tells us what to say. So we tell him, if you want to talk to us, call our attorney. And he kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And we kept saying, contact our attorney. She said, I'll cover you guys until we can find you an attorney. So she finds us the attorney that is still with us today. And so, then he came to the meeting and they start looking into things and collecting documents. And at some point, after you gather enough information, then, you can file your notice of intent, right? Well, up until this point, we had kind of been piecing things together, right? Like, we knew who was driving. We knew there were 2 passengers in the car. We knew at this point that the 3 kids were out. They had been to dinner. They had been to the races. They were just out driving around. They got invited to this house party. They're heading out there. They see that the police had busted the party. So they thought, well, what the hell? Let's go see who got arrested, right? Let's be a looky-loo like everybody else in the world.
Right.
As they go there, they get stopped. Something transpired. And off they went. And the cops started chasing them. At this point, we still have no idea what caused this escalation, right? We don't know. But we know that the police chase, went on for an excessively long time, well over 20 minutes. Speeds over 100 miles an hour for most of the chase. Back and forth across gravel roads, major highways, through a town. We know that they were chased down a dead-end road, and then the truck barrel rolled. And all 3 of them were ejected. That's what we know. At this point, that's what we know. We know that our mind couldn't wrap around what the truck looked like, that they even survived. We had a friend call and tell us that there was some big special meeting with all the agencies involved so they could all collectively get their story right. And this person was so angry about it that they wanted us to make sure our attorneys knew, because why are we doing this? Everybody immediately jumped on the bandwagon that the kids were drinking, doing drugs, were threatening the police. I mean, there were all kinds of stories going around. But I can, with 100% certainty, assure everyone there was no drugs, no alcohol, no traffic violations. We did know this much. So, what the hell happened that led these 3 kids almost dying because of a high-speed chase?
Right.
They didn't kill anybody. They didn't rob a bank. They didn't kidnap anybody. So I'm not sure what else would justify a high-speed chase.
Right.
What do you know? So we're finding these details out. We have the local paper that prints it, all the negative stuff that, oh, they were drinking and they were doing drugs and blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't true.
Did they ever write a retraction?
Never.
Yeah.
We had all the labs. We had all the lab results. We knew. But at that point, damage was done.
Right.
Now we have the police that are involved spinning a different narrative. So, of course, everybody's got their own narrative to what happened, us included. But our narrative was, how in the heck does our daughter walk out the door to go to the races and out for dinner and end up in a trauma hospital clinging to life? What happened that was so bad that would warrant this high-speed chase over how many miles? Well over 20 minutes. Like, please, what was the justification for that? And in my mind, there is no justification. Because, on another note, they knew who the driver was. The officers knew who the driver was. They also knew that the driver had an ankle monitor on. So, once again, what justified this chase when they could go back and talk to that guy anytime?
Right.
They knew how to find him.
They knew who was driving.
They knew who was driving because they had stopped him.
So why the confusion at the hospital then?
I think, I guess in the families, all the families' mind, is they were just trying to cause confusion with the families so we wouldn't unify as one to stand up against what was going on.
But that put her in such a bad
It did.
position.
It did.
Unfair, like none of it is fair. I don't want to say unfairly, but
No, none of this is fair. Not an ounce of this is fair. And why? Like the lies that were starting to be uncovered through all of this. So as we're finding these things out through reports and investigations, you know, and our attorneys are supplying us with this information because we have a right to know.
Yeah.
We couldn't talk about it.
right.
So it's just Tom and I again. And we're trying to shield our kids from this information that we know. We need to talk about it. That was the worst place to be. Because we're learning what's going on. We're hearing negative stuff about all 3 of the kids. We're trying to fight for her to recover. First, we're trying to fight for her to live. Now we're trying to fight for her to recover. We have the police, some officers, not all. You know, there are still some very good officers, but there were some that were not so good. Like the one laughing at us.
Yeah.
when they gave us the notice, like the ones stalking us pretty much, you know. So we're trying to deal with all of this. And our kids heard a lot of it. We shared what we felt they could comprehend and what they could handle. So in their minds, these police officers tried to kill their sister. I mean, that was their mindset. The police tried to kill our sister. So they don't trust any police officer at this point. Like none. They were petrified to leave the house. They were petrified to go anywhere, drive anywhere. What happens if we get stopped?
Right.
Okay. So because they're harassing us here, we're very nervous about what's going to happen where Morgan is. So of course we have to talk to the administrator of our unit and the head nurse, the director of nursing for our unit, and explain, like, nobody comes in here, nobody takes any pictures unless we authorize it. Sorry, but this is how it's going to be, and you could tell they weren't extremely happy about this, but they were accepting of it, right? So there's all these little pieces plugging in to every situation. When we were at the trauma hospital, because of some things that had happened, and we wanted to prove that Morgan was doing things, we turned on a video camera and we recorded 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we continued to do that at the rehab hospital, 24/7. And if she wasn't in her room, we'd shut it off, but we would record every therapy. We would record everything she was doing, we were recording. Which, looking back now, I'm very thankful that we've done that. If for no other reason, to continue to remind us how far she's come, right?
Right.
It's gut-wrenching to go back to the early days and look at this stuff, but it's still gut-wrenching to look now at where she is, because I want my baby back fully. I want her fully restored. I want her to run and skip through the fields, and maybe someday.
There's hope.
There's always hope. Because as I learned in church one day, hope doesn't disappoint. So I cling pretty hard to hope. And I cling even harder to faith. So, we've got legal. We've got the officers. Now, of course, being in a small location, small county, people are taking sides.
Oh, yeah.
So for some, they're mortified. For others, we're just evil people. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? And, social media is great, but it's also an enemy too. So it's very hard when people are posting negative things. So we took a break from a lot of different avenues. We did keep her Caring Bridge open so we could communicate with all those that wanted to follow us. And we were very blessed that there was no negativity on that. So for that, we are very, very grateful. But it's hard. It's hard, even for me, to look back and try and put myself in those shoes again. It's very hard because it's kind of unbelievable. Like, the police wouldn't do this, right? Like, how does this happen? So once again, back to our church family and our extended family. Without them, I know we would have never made it through. It was that horrible. It was that horrible. And we could tell them a little, but we couldn't tell them a lot.
Right.
But they never asked and they never pushed,
Right.
you know. So I was extremely grateful for that we had that support network. Sorry.
It's rough.
It's rough talking about it. It's rough thinking about it. I try to, there's just certain memories you just want to just let die somewhere, and not bring them back up. But then you forget where it is you came from. And I don't want to forget.
Come a long way.
We've come a very long way. So Mike, I love Mike. Mr. Mike.
Mike was the volunteer.
The volunteer that would sit with Morgan.
TBI survivor.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, and the whole time we were there, Mike did this.
He was there.
He was there. And he would sit, and he wore bib overalls. It was so cute. He doesn't always wear them, but there were a lot of times he'd have them on, and he'd pull out his prayer books, and he'd sit there with Morgan, and he'd talk to her, and he'd show her pictures of his little dog, and he would just talk and pray with her, and he'd tell her Jesus loves her, and she's just got to keep fighting, and he'd tell her about his struggles of his recovery. And I still don't even know all his struggles of his recovery. But he told her, and they'd pray, and they'd pray. So mind you, remember, her head is to the left, right? Yep. And picture her room, and her bed would be right here, and the big window is over here. And then this wall had like her bathroom there, and then the doorway going out of it. But this wall went up higher, and there were these little windows along there. So it was like a roof like that, and then this roof. And we had little windows. And when Mike would be praying with her, her head would go there and look up towards those windows. And it's pitch black outside, right? And Mike, love him, I would come back and he'd say, Morgan was looking at the angels tonight. What? I said, they're up there. Up there, where the windows are. He said, can you see them? And I'm like, no. He's like, Morgan sees them. And I just thought, wow, because she's got the innocence of a child. And Mike, with his brain injury, shares those same similarities in some aspects. So it doesn't surprise me that they both can see angels.
Right.
And they were insistent, and he'd tell me that a lot. He would tell me that a lot. He said, and her head would go from her left over, look up. And then he said he always, if he couldn't see him, he knew when they would leave because her head would come back to the left. And I just thought, either this place is pretty magical, which I still think it is. But Morgan's got a lot of God power on her side. And it was things like that would give us strength and hope and help us just keep going. Because as therapy went on, not everyone is perfect at what they do. And I get frustrated with medical personnel or any personnel. Teachers, doctors, nurses,
real estate agents,
accountants, whoever. It's okay to say, I don't know. but let me help you find someone who does know. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I say, I kind of would like maybe a second opinion or to try another therapist because I don't feel Morgan's responding well. Maybe somebody else she might respond better to. It's nothing personal, right? My goal, my end game is to help my daughter get better. And personalities, you may be a great therapist, but it's not working in this situation. So by the end of August, we've been here for a month, we're learning these personalities, right? Morgan had some pretty bad anxiety in high school, right? She got teased a lot, picked on. She was always just so happy-go-lucky, and I think that caused some people to be jealous or, whatever their reason was, she got picked on, right? Which gave her anxiety because she couldn't understand what it was she had done wrong to make these people not like her or do the things that they were doing, right? Bullying her, harassing her. So she would get a little intimidated and she gets some anxiety kicking in, right? So here we are. So when you have what we've learned at this time is therapists who are harsh, she shuts down, right? Because we're starting to see this emergence out of Morgan. Like, we're off the sedative medicine. We're starting to see her engaging more, moving her eyes more, twitching her hands, moving her arms volitionally, you know. But then we also see her not responding to certain therapists and responding amazing to other therapists. We see the emergence of Morgan's. So through this process, we're seeing the emergence of Morgan's personality. And we're realizing that her anxiety from before is coming back into play with certain therapists. So this one therapist in particular, we didn't have her a lot, but she was always kind of harsh. And so, we had mentioned that, hey, let's dial it back a little bit and try a different approach. Morgan responds better to this. And I think, I still think she was probably a good therapist, but she was very like, get in, get it done, and get out. And Morgan didn't work that way. So that caused a little bit of tension between her and I, especially, because I'm just advocating for Morgan.
Right.
I'm going to advocate for her. She's my number one. And honestly, I didn't care whose feelings I stepped on. I don't care. To this day, I don't care.
I have a new phrase, but
for us, there is nothing more important in this world than my kids and grandkids. And I don't care whose toes I step on to keep them safe and healthy and happy. Right?
So were you able to switch out therapists or?
They gave us like a rotating therapy thing with that physical therapy piece.
Okay.
Right?
She was physical.
Yeah, she was physical.
Physical therapist. Okay.
Her occupational therapist, oh my gosh, she was so sweet and bubbly and jokey with Morgan. And the therapy aides were the same way. Like she had some pretty awesome therapy aides who are always like trying to engage her and kind of teasing her a little bit in fun ways, so we'd start to see things like a little smirk emerge. I know, like these little things,
Huge.
they're huge for us. I think therapy worlds tend to forget where we're at because they see this day in and day out. Like really.
Yeah.
And And so for us, this is like climbing to the top of Everest. This little smirk showing up. But to them, it's like, it's not really a big deal, you know? So
But were they documenting it?
sometimes.
Okay. So it's important for insurance companies.
Yes. Documentation is always important for insurance companies.
Sorry.
No, I am very snarky about insurance, especially our insurance. You know, when they pay great. When they cover great. When they don't,
Heaven and hell.
oh, that's a whole story for another day. The insurance issues that we've had. Yes. We'll get to that later. But, you know, so we're getting a groove on. Morgan's doing sitting balance. They got somebody behind her. You know, her head is really weak. Her neck muscles are super weak. But they do things like have her sit and then lean over on an arm. And we're like, what is this about? But it puts pressure through the arm. It gives her feeling through the arm. And it's sending signals back to the brain. Right? Like this is pretty fascinating stuff, right? That we're learning.
Yeah.
So they're doing, you know, sitting balance, and they're trying to get her to track over here and then way over to here. They're doing things like, let's get her hands to go up to her mouth or reach out for something. Let's try and get her legs to kick. You know, there was this machine, she'd lay at a slight little incline and the backrest would move on it. She'd lay on it and put her feet on a platform, and then she'd try and straighten her legs and then bend them. And then it's like doing squats, but laying down, right? It's build up some leg muscles. You know, every time she could initiate's the other key word, but she could initiate the movement that shows cognitive function, right?
Good stuff.
It is good stuff. It is. But it doesn't come without a price. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.